one of the most celebrated pieces of writing in anthropology. The American anthropologist Clifford Geertz analyses the Balinese cockfight. A Balinese cockfight is, he says, a story the very civilised and honourable Balinese tell themselves about themselves. You see, move the mood lighting just a little, and Balinese masculinity was distinctly toxic. It could be problematic beyond its politeness and its gentleness. But in the cockfight, the pun is the same in Balinese as it is in English. There it was for all to see, as clans bet upon their cocks and threatened to fight each other as their birds tore themselves apart. A great fete then, a festival, where all were invited and all had their part, and in the ritual of violence, a primitive story was told and retold, and people took their distance from it. They felt its truth, and they felt its horror. They felt its blood, and they felt its fury, and therefore they understood what it was to be civilised. It was a story then that both located the spectators within it and yet distanced themselves from it. It was their story, but it was not their story. It was their story in another world they could open to if they were mad enough to try. It's a superb piece of writing, and one that, of course, in this world where endless stories are told that ask us to locate ourselves within them, of different sorts, matters to us. Because, I don't know about you, but for me, the world is currently full of stories where I'm being asked to locate myself within. From the horror of Gaza, which we're being asked to understand through our own political mesh, so that its horror becomes a story we tell also about ourselves as we look at it and say, that's what governments really want to do. Is it? Maybe. But it is certainly true that in its horror we see something of the truth of governments. From those, then, horrors that are unwinding, in which we feel our stories to told, to the more mundane sort of stories, the legends that sweep across the internet. Yesterday, in my own particular piece of madness, I heard a legend in which we were all being invited to tell ourselves inside a morality play about tectonics. Some hypnotherapist had seen a vision, had caught the vision from her patients. They all told the same story of an apocalypse to come, as the very planet rejected us all. Now, I could resist with my art rationalist head on, and I can be an art rationalist on a bad day. I could reduce the entire story to impossibility. But that would spoil its point. Its point that this is superbly a story in which emotions are being knitted up, expressed, that a deep truth about the fact the world is going wrong, that somehow, in Nietzsche's words, that we are some sort of canker on it, needs to be cured, and that we're not doing enough about it. It goes then into a story of rebirth, of going back to a different world, a world that we're forced to reset in. It is then a story that is being told about those who tell it, by those who tell it, in which they are locating themselves. And yet, it is worth pointing out that in the modern version of this sort of myth, it is no longer external but internal. The Balinese myth works because the Balinese are not cocks. But in the West, in our post-Enlightenment world, it is very clear that when we tell a myth, we must include ourselves within it. And I think it is one of those ironies of our times, that the great prophets of modernity, I mean people like Weber, or for that matter Marx, believed that the modern world we were going to enter into, the world created by reason, would somehow be a world beyond myth. Indeed, Weber thought the danger would be that it would be grey and colourless, full of cheerless bureaucracy. And yet, of course, what has actually happened is that we have invented a different way that mythologies work, a different way they bind our souls. You see, the thing about the Balinese version, and arguably the Greek version, was that there was a clear difference between gods and men, between fighting cocks and humans. These were stories that were told about themselves, but in which the human was distant from the teller. They were distant from the legend. But advertising, for 120 years or so, has surely all been about locating us, ourselves, inside the stories, inside others' stories. So much so that over the years, the stories have stopped being about us at all. It is no longer a story we tell about ourselves. Oh no. It is a story in which we are part, in which our lives are surely the actions, the embodiment of some other thing's story. What else is it to sing a song from the advert as you put a product on, or to imagine you are a Lynx man or wearing real denim and have blue jeans? You are part of the product story. Human souls, then, are being pulled rather than pulled, so that they move into others' stories, tell others' tales. This is the world of advertising. But of course, the world of internet makes it even sharper, even more difficult. As stories such as the one I told, of plate tectonics killing humanity, puts the teller in an ambivalent position. Everyone who tells the story kind of doesn't believe it and kind of does believe it. They kind of think it is true and isn't true because it is, I suppose, one might say, symbolically true. Always a dangerous phrase. Symbolic truth tends to mean in somewhere there's a lie, but that's a different story. But the modern myths of advertising, they locate ourselves directly within them, so that we can no longer tell ourselves apart from the story that we are being made to tell. And this is, of course, one of the secrets of the AI far-right revolution in which we are living. It becomes increasingly difficult to tell your own story. You are rather caught up in the great dramas of today, dramas we feel we cannot avoid. One of the things I avoid, you might have noticed it, is excessive use of the word fascism. And one of the reasons I do that is because that is a fatalistic tale. The tale of the rise of the new right, and we all on the left pull out our hair and say, to think that we lived through this again! As if we were not actors in it. As if this was not a tale we were telling, but a tale that told us. And that basic powerlessness, that basic rendering us as product of our own stories, is surely one of the deep features of our modernity. Oh, the world might be all spectacle, but that is just because it is the products that are watching and not us. The world might have become fully virtual, maybe, but that is only because we have virtualized our own lives as we dance to others' tunes, and do so increasingly through the stories that are made to tell themselves out through us. Going back then to Clifford Geertz, to the innocent Balinese who were eventually, I'm afraid, wiped out, and their civilized practice, but their barbaric ritual of the cockfight. It is easy to see it as somehow a lost Eden. Now, I very much doubt it ever was. But there was always a distinction that we had lost at our peril. A cock was not a human, but we have become our own stories and are in them now caught, unless we learn to tell different tales.